Excellent. And we will get going. So thank you everyone for, let me minimize. Oh my gosh, so many. There we go. So many menus. Thank you for attending today's webinar on BiblioCore patron registration and accounts. My name is Mieko. I am the project manager at CCS. But before I was the project manager, I worked very closely with circulation and all things patron registration. This webinar is being recorded. When the recording is ready, I'll send it out through L2 to everyone who registered. We'll also post a link in CCS News. In addition to the recording, you'll also get a copy of the slides. So let me move to our next one. In today's webinar, we are focusing entirely on the patron's BiblioCore account. So this includes registering for BiblioCore account, logging in, viewing account information, paying fees, some account settings the patron has access to, and then a handful of BiblioCore tools that library staff can use to assist patrons with account troubleshooting. So we have an hour set aside for this webinar, and there is a good amount that I want to cover. So how we're going to do this today, I'm going to go through a section and then I'll pause and we can do questions. I do have like little timestamps in my notes for when we need to move on to the next section. So if there are, more questions than we have time for, I am so happy to stick around after the webinar ends to answer whatever is left. Um, I am going to be in BiblioCore and demoing for most of the webinar, but I have added some notes and how-to steps on the slides where appropriate. So again, we'll share those out along with recording. Okay, so let's get started with registering for a BiblioCore account. So the first time patrons log into BiblioCore, they will need to create a BiblioCore account. So why is this a feature? Why do they need to register for an account in addition to their Polaris record? This allows users to create and access features outside of Polaris content, such as creating virtual shelves in BiblioCore, creating title lists, and adding things like ratings or reviews. In BiblioCore, the registration process, it's going to look slightly different if you are an adult or if you are a minor, meaning you are under the age of 13. And I'm going to show you what both look like. So again, when I mentioned I've got like notes and some how-to steps on the slides, you will get those in the follow-up email, but I am mostly going to be in Core for today. Okay, so uh, I'm going to start off by demoing the registration for an adult patron. So I'm just going to click on log in my account and then get that menu out of the way. Then I'm going to click log in and register. So this is the first time I'm logging in to BiblioCore. So I will enter my library card number. Got my demo account here. And then I will and my Polaris password. And then I'm going to click login. So since this is the first time I'm logging in, it's going to prompt me to set up my catalog account. So I can say continue to account setup. It's going to just kind of show me some basic information, my first name, my last name, my email address, and then the month and year of the date of my birth. And again, it says the date of birth is used to determine if you are a minor. So from this, I am very much an adult. So when it pushes me then to kind of finish my account setup, I am able to create my own username. It can be letters, numbers, underscores, and it does have to be a unique username. So I'm going to pop something in. I don't believe I've used this one before, so I shouldn't be stopped. And then I will say I accept the following terms and I can click complete account setup. So from here, I have confirmation. I can head to my account. And then the initial page I see after creating my account, it allows me to configure some account options, things like setting my default pickup location, my default language. These are all settings that the user can adjust in their account later on. I'm going to hold off on like making any adjustments now so I can show you where those settings live later on in the webinar. The one thing I do want to point out here is this import list items option. So if the user has built lists in the Power Pack, Core does have the option for the user to import those lists. So it's going to pull titles from the pack and add them to the user's for later shelf. Um, there's a couple areas where the user can do this. They aren't limited to this, this initial registration. So I'm not going to click this now. And again, I can show you the other ways the patron can do this later on. Okay, so that is registering as an adult. I'm going to log out. And now let's see what the experience looks like for a minor, for a child under 13. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to input my other demo card here and my password. And I'm going to click login again. I see the same welcome message. I can continue to my account setup. So here we see, my birth date. I am under 13. My test user was born in 2019. So what happens as a minor, there are some additional protections in place. So instead of creating my own username, it prompts me to select from a list of username options. So I can select a color. So I'm going to say gold. I can select from an animal. I want to be a bird. And then it's also going to assign a number. Again, I can pick from options, but I can't create my own username from scratch. So I am gold underscore bird underscore 1161. And then again, I can accept the following terms, go to that complete account setup, and continue on. Okay. Oop, and let's log out there. Why is it loading like this? Well, I will pause while I'm waiting for my computer to catch up with me, and just see if there are any questions. There we go. Nothing coming through on the chat, so I'm gonna continue with log in. If you do think of anything, go ahead and pop it on in. So we just looked at registration. Next, I'm gonna go over some aspects of login. So when I am logging in, I can log in either using my library card number, or I can use my BiblioCore username. And I'm going to enter in a card here. I do see a question coming through. Will the program filter out vulgar, inappropriate names if a patron tries to choose that? Aaron, that's a good question. I have not seen any documentation of username filtering, so let me check on that and I will follow up. I'm just going to write down this question down. Okay, got that noted. Okay, so we can log in. I can use my library card number. I can use my BiblioCore username. And then I will always use my Polaris password. One thing I do want to note here, the Polaris username is not compatible with BiblioCore. So if the patron set up a username through the Power Pack, um, BiblioCore cannot use that to authenticate them. So again, user can use their BiblioCore username or their library card number, and they will always use the Polaris password to log in. Before I move on, I'm just going to click this Forgot Your Password. So we have recently learned that the site will only trigger a password reset email if the patron has already registered with BiblioCore. So we did put a request into BiblioCommons, and they will be adding some text to this page, indicating that if it's your first time logging into BiblioCore, to reach out to the library to help, or it will link them to the classic catalog for the reset. So I just wanted to let you all know about that behavior and that some clarifying text will be added to that page. Okay, so I'm going to finish logging in, and then I'm going to pause and check out chat. Okay, question. If they change their password in BiblioCore, does it also change their PIN in Leap for authentication in other services like Libby? Yes, it will post the password change to Polaris. So that will become like their new Polaris password. So question, going back to the filtering vulgar or profane content, patron reviews are public on the catalog. Are there filters on review content? So there are not filters on review content. Users are able to flag content. And then if content gets, I believe, 3 flags, it will be shadowed. So I'll have that like, hidden for content message, and the review will be pushed to BiblioCommons for review. Okay, so I'm logged in now. I went to look at viewing account information. So when you're logged in, you'll first find yourself in your library dashboard. So if you're looking at the drop-down menu, that's this first option right here, my library dashboard. And this gives you some quick access to your for later shelf, which I don't have any content on right now. I will also have my activity feed, which is private. So we will look at where those settings live. And then I've got links on the left-hand side to my account areas, and these mirror what's available in that account drop down on top. So a lot of these are kind of your standard account information from the ILS, things like you have checked out, what you have on hold, and then some BiblioCore specific content, like seeing your shelves and your access to lists. So let's start by looking at those standard ILS pages, and then we can move into some more BiblioCore specific content. So I am first going to click into my checkouts. And as you see here, I've got some visuals. Actually, let me go back to my dashboard because it will give you just some quick color-coded visuals. So I've got one item overdue. I've got something coming up due soon. So it gives you your next due date. If this was a little further out in the future, it would be, green instead of orange. So let me click on that. And then I've got my list of checkouts. So I've got a couple different ways I can view this. Right now I'm on like a card display. So at the very top of the list, you'll see a couple options, and the other is just like a list display. So it's a little more condensed. It doesn't have the cover image. I'm going to click back to the title display. I've got my title details. It's got a link to the bib record. I've got the details of my checkout, including when the item is due and the status. So the big thing I want to show you here is what it looks like to renew items. So I can absolutely renew items individually. Let me find, here we go. I can just click this nice little renew button, and it will renew my item for me. At the very top of the list, right above the first item, you'll see a quick renew button. So this will allow me to either renew the overdue items or renew the coming due items. In addition to using the individual or the quick renew, I can also, do a bulk selection. So I can select, using the checkbox, select one or more item, or use the checkbox at top to select all. And then you'll notice a little pop-up on the bottom of the screen, and it gives me the option to renew the selected items. So that is how I can do it in bulk. BiblioCore will reference our database for renewal eligibility. And the same renewal rules apply as with Leap or the pack. So the patron will see a message if the item is ineligible for renewal. So let's see, this one should have holds. Let me just show you what that looks like. So I will see a message. Yep. So if you see on the bottom here, I will see a message if an item is ineligible for renewal because of holds, or where is the one? Here we go. Or if the item has exceeded, is no longer eligible for renewals. Okay. And then one thing you'll see in a lot of these areas are options for adding things to shelves. So that's what this little in progress button is. And if I open it up, I will also see an option for later or an option for completed. So these are my 3 shelves. It's structured, just like a Goodreads where you've got, your want to read, you're currently reading, you've completed. So you will see that option in many areas in core. And then I'm going to go back. Let me select everything again and come back to that little pop-up at the bottom. Um, you can organize your shelves in bulk, add things in bulk using this manage items pop-up. Okay. So that is our checked out area. I'm just going to pop into borrowing history real quick. So if the user has turned on their reading history in Polaris or the pack, BiblioCore will reference that setting and display the patron's reading history in their account when they're logged in. One thing to note here, BiblioCore does not store the patron's history. They're using an API call to get the history from Polaris and then display it when the user is logged in. How it works, so it displays the recent titles, and then you can click this view all down here to see your full reading history. Just like looking at my history in the pack, I don't have the ability to search my history list, but they do have a few different ways to sort. So at the very top of the list, I have this sort by option, and I can expand it and I can sort either by like my recent stuff, by title, by author, or format. And then I also have the ability to print my list, and pretty sure it will print in chunks of like 50. And then again, like we see in many of those account pages, I've got that ability to add to my shelves. Um, Now, if the user has not yet turned their reading history on in Polaris, they are able to do so in BiblioCore. So I'm going to pop here. I've got another user logged in. I'm just going to jump to settings real quick so I can show you where this option is. And I've got to log in again because I let this sit too long. Okay. So if I want to turn on my reading history, in my settings, I've got this little message saying my history is disabled, and I can click here to enable it, save the changes. Um, and what this is going to do, it's also going to enable the setting in the Polaris record. So it's going to keep keeping a list of their checkouts from this point forward. Okay, and I saw a chat come through, so this is a good time to pause and take a look. So for existing patrons, the borrowing history will default to turned on in BiblioCore if this was turned on in the pack. Is this true for a new patron as well? So if we register a new patron and they opt in to see their reading history in Polaris, will it automatically turned on in BiblioCore, or does the patron need to turn it on in BiblioCore as well? You know what, Janine? I am do not remember off the top of my head. So let's test this out. I'm going to use that brand new patron record. Actually, we can't because I have not turned my reading history on my new patron record. So that is another one. I'm going to test that out to verify, and then I will send a follow-up to the group. So let me just note that. I believe, thank you. I believe, so what Angelica says, and then they would need to opt in BiblioCore. Um, I don't trust if I am remembering correctly, when you register, you need to opt in so it displays in BiblioCore. Again, it's been so long since I've tested that, so I do just want to verify. Okay, borrowing history. Let's look at holds next. And I do see a few more chats through. Thank you. Angelica tried it. Borrowing history does not default to being on. She had to opt in. I appreciate that test. Okay, let's look at holds. So the elephant in the room here is that the holds view does currently show the patron where they are in the queue. And BiblioCommons is working to see if there's a way to deactivate that. That was our request we put out to them. It's not a super helpful number when you are part of a consortium because there's so many factors at play. So at this time, it is displaying. We are seeing if it can be removed, and we will let libraries know what the final result of that is. So in our um, in our holds view, I do have the ability to suspend a hold, so I can click pause hold, and I can select a date in the future. Let me confirm that. And that's going to pause my hold for now until that activation date comes through. If I want to unsuspend the request, all I need to do is click resume, and I'm active again. Hold queue and prioritization will always follow Polaris settings. So if a patron pauses their hold, the behavior is the same as Polaris. They're going to continue to move up in the queue. If they make it to the top, they'll just hang out there until that activation date rolls around. Users can also cancel the hold. I'm just going to click cancel and then confirm. It does give them the option if they want to, like, if they didn't have time for it now, but they want to get to it later, you can add it to your for later shelf. And then if I've canceled, so in Polaris, canceled holds, Polaris hangs on to canceled holds for 2 weeks before it permanently deletes that request record. So users can view the recently canceled requests at the very bottom of the screen by clicking on the canceled holds view. And then it gives them the option if they want to replace the hold. Um, Users are able to cancel or pause holds in bulk. So again, you've got those nice little check boxes. You've got the manage items actions at the bottom that allows you to cancel or pause. And then one thing here, um, you'll see right now on the CCS parent site, there's something going on where it's not letting me change the pickup location. So that should be fixed soon. I'm just going to open up a different library site. It's working on like all of the other library sites at this time, just not the CCS site. So let me quickly show you what it looks like if the patron wants to change their pickup location. You'll see this little like caret icon next to the branch. So that allows you to expand the list and you can select a different location and it will automatically update that location. Okay. Question, the hold queue position is across the entire consortium, correct? Not just for their specified home library. That is correct. So when, we're looking at this French illusion book, I am number 382 in line. That is 382 across the entire consortium. Okay, so one thing that's different from the Power Pack is how the out-of-system interlibrary loan requests display. So in the pack, both in-system holds and out-of-system holds display together. In BiblioCore, they are separated out into two different sections. So the on-hold display gives me all of my in-system holds, my intra-CCS holds. And then anything out of system falls under this ILL requests area. So from the point, staff place an ILL request in Leap until the patron checks it out. The ILL request will display in this ILL request view. And you'll see that patrons aren't able to take the same actions as they are with regular holds. So they are restricted from like changing the pickup location or pausing the hold or canceling the request. So it is set up so that the patron does have to reach out to the library to make any changes to their out of system requests. Um, I'm going to skip over fees just for a second so I can show you the other area of the My account that has like uh, the features specific to BiblioCore, particularly the shelves. So under the My account, My collections, I can view my for later shelf, my completed shelf, my in progress shelf, and then I have access to any lists that I've created. I'm going to go to the for later shelf. Okay, so think back to when we were in the registration section of the webinar, and I did not select my option to import my Power Pack lists. So I wanted to make sure I could show you where the user can find that option if they do happen to skip over it at registration. So they will find that import option under the for later shelf. So again, we're under My account, My collections, for later shelf. And then if I scroll down here, I see this alert saying that I can migrate the items from my previous catalog's list to my shelf. And then it has the import list item button. So I'm going to click this import list items and it's going to pull in the items from my pack lists and add it to my for later shelf. And from here, I can then use this manage item to move it to a different shelf. And one heads up, if I am a patron that has multiple lists, it is going to pull all of that content in to this single for later shelf. So it won't organize my lists for me. The good thing is, pack will continue to be available to us. We will not lose access to the pack. So, if the user does want to go back to the Power Pack just to see how their lists look or were organized, we can slip them the URL. It's still available on the CCS website under Member Tools A to Z, and they can log into the pack, check out their list, see how they were organized. Is there an easy way to reassign items to different lists? Um, we can reassign to the completed or the in progress shelf. So you can select items in bulk using the checkboxes, and then using that manage items pop-up at the very bottom, you can move it to a completed or you can move it to an in progress. In terms of moving shelf content to list content, that would be a manual process. So the staff member, or I'm sorry, the library patron would need to build their lists manually. Yes. Okay. So I've got my shelves here. I just clicked on the for later tab, just kind of like give a little refresh. So one thing that is nice, and kind of going back to the question, if you do have someone that's trying to sort their shelf content, one thing that could maybe help them is using these facets and filters on the left-hand side. So one thing that's nice here is that you do have some just a handful of filters that you can use. So if you wanted to, like, limit it down. Oh, did that work? Did that work? Let's see. Hmm, fun. Okay, I'm going to make a note of this so I can reach out to BiblioCommons and just ask them about the filtering. Theoretically, those filters should help you filter down your shelves so you can more easily organize them. So let me just make a note here. I love finding this stuff live. Okay. So that was just a few things I wanted to show you with shelves. Let's talk about fees for a second. Um, CCS libraries generally use ePay as their e-commerce service. BiblioCore does not yet support ePay integration, so it's something they are working on. So this is what the fee payment process looks like in the interim. In the patron's fee page, they will see the individual charges that they owe, and they will see a pay fees button. When they click pay fees, since it doesn't integrate with ePay, so it's not going to take them directly to ePay. What it's going to do instead is it's going to take them to the Power Pack. And then the patron can log in to the pack. 6, 7, 8, 1. Okay. And from here, then they are able to kind of go through that same process as in the pack, select the fees they want to pay, make a payment. I'm going to confirm, and then it's going to take me to ePay, where then I can make the payment. So from here, I would click like add payment method, enter my credit card information. I trust you all, but I'm not going to put my credit card info in a webinar. And then once I complete payment on the ePay site, it will take me back to my BiblioCommons fees page. So after they're done paying, it's going to return them directly here. The payment will be applied to Polaris. The user may need to use, if the page doesn't refresh, the user may need to say update total at the top here to refresh the page to show that the payment was taken. So that's what fees looks like for now. Again, we're hoping the process is a little more streamlined here soon. Backtracking to importing. Is importing done once in BiblioCore, or can you import more than once? You can import more than once. So when we get to the looking at the staff tools, I'm going to show you how you can like re-trigger that import option. So um, the user, like, a couple months down the line, if the user has some other content they want to import, um, they can do it. The final thing on the patron side that I wanted to show you before we move into some staff actions are the settings. So these are the options. If I'm clicking on my account, these are the options at the very bottom of the list, the My Settings area. And this is where they can view and update things like their preferences and privacy defaults. So just like in the pack, I'm able to update my email address, my Polaris password. I can change my username if I wanted to. Okay, so let me scooch down because this is what I wanted to show you here. The first thing is setting my preferred pickup locations. So right now I do have my preferred pickup location set to Fremont. And I'm going to click change so I can get to the full set of options. And so the nice thing, as you just saw me delete, the nice thing is you can have multiple pickup locations here. So I've got my primary pick. Maybe that's my home library. Maybe that's the library I use the most. But maybe I live closer to another location. So maybe I live or I work, I'm sorry, maybe I work in kind of the Des Plaines area. So I'm gonna set Des Plaines as my secondary. Maybe sometimes, I use the Fremont drive up window, so I can set that as my third. Um, so it gives me that option to have multiple preferred locations. And then when I go to place a hold, when I go to place the hold, my preferred locations, and these were the ones that I had it set up. So it looks like I needed to refresh my page. My preferred location is going to be at the top of my list, and then I will have all the other branches at the bottom. Mhm. Go back to settings. I can also, oh, I did not say the changes before. I can also, um, if set a single click hold. So if I always pick my holds up at the same place, I can select this little checkbox for single click holds and say my changes. And this way, when I go to place a hold, it's going to skip that step of prompting me to select a pickup location, and it's just going to set it to my first preferred location. Okay, I'm just going to check chat before I move on to the next. Does this mean if they make changes to listen pack, it won't transfer to the patron's account in BiblioCore? That is correct. If they make, after importing, if they make any changes to listen pack, it's not going to communicate with BiblioCore. Also, will repeat imports result in duplicate items in a list? That's a good question. Let's see if we can set up a test during our demo. If not, we can test that after the webinar is finished. So let me just make a note here. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's go back to my settings. So we looked at holds and pickup location. Another thing is preferred language. Let me go in there. So Core does offer display options for 10 different languages. I can select a language preference. In this way, whenever I log in, it's going to automatically display the site in that language. Um, Site translation works the same way as it does in the Power Pack. So it will only translate the BiblioCore site text. It can't translate the ILS content like, book descriptions, movie titles, um, or content the users have created, like list titles, reviews, or the library's custom contents, right? So, like you see here, the alert banner that we added is not able to be translated. Okay, let's go back to the last handful of settings I want to show you are tied to privacy and visibility of content. So the first one is community content defaults. So this setting, we earlier we were talking about how offensive content is flagged. So this setting will then shadow that content that has been flagged as either spoilers or offensive. And by default, this content is hidden for users. A user can opt in to display it if they want. Um, I also mentioned, I'm going to look at this privacy settings now. I also mentioned that content I added to my shelves is private by default. So this is where you can find that setting. So again, it's automatically going to be set to private for all users, and they can opt in to making that content public by default. And then finally, there's the activity feed privacy settings. So this is the default setting for all activities. So things, if you like a comment, stuff like that, um, it's going to default. Mine is set to private. Uh, and as a user, I can edit my individual actions if I want to make them public. And then finally, ignored users. The patron can block content from certain users. So Core will suppress that user's content from your view. And pop into the chat here for questions. Do patrons have the option to make the review section invisible in their account settings? No, there is currently no way to suppress that entire section. Also, can patrons flag their own reviews for spoilers, or does the three flag rule apply to spoilers as well? I think they can, but let's test that out to be sure. I'm just going to make a note here. Also, are there any penalties applied to patron accounts that repeatedly post profane or inappropriate reviews on titles? I will need to check the BiblioCommons documentation for users who are reported repeatedly. Make a note for that. Don't Yeah, they are all good questions. So I really appreciate them. Let me just make sure, check my notes, make sure that was everything I wanted to show you on the patron's end for settings. Okay, so the last section of this webinar is going to look at tools available to staff to help you manage user accounts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to log out of my patron, and I'm going to log back in with my staff username. So the actions we're going to look at here are all actions that staff in the user management permission group has access to. And these actions are all available under the admin dropdown and manage user account. So again, admin dropdown, manage user account. And these are tools that allow staff to assist patrons with their BiblioCore account. Um, Before I get into any specific actions, it prompts me to search for the user I am helping. So I have found that username or barcode is the most successful. The searching by name can be a little tricky, it seems. So my recommendation is to use the username or the barcode. I'm going to use my test user's barcode. 6, 2, okay. So I'll enter in their username or barcode. I'll say find user. And then it brings me to this manage user account page for my test patron. And then I see the actions I am able to take on their account. One thing I want to point out here is that every patron using a CCS library site will have a home library of Glenview. And this is because Glenview was the first CCS library to use BiblioCore. So they're kind of like the default. At this time, there isn't a way to change that home library field. This has no impact on holds or search results or anything else tied to the patron's experience. Okay, what are some things you can do here? The first action, which is currently shadowed, is unlock account. So what is a lock? If the user has 5 unsuccessful login attempts within 60 seconds, so 5 attempts, 60 seconds, it's going to lock the user out for an hour. And they will see a lockout message. So it tells them, they've exceeded the maximum number of failed login attempts, like try again in an hour. If the patron reaches out to the library and says, I don't want to wait an hour, staff can manually unlock the user here. So you would come into, you would log in with your admin user, you would come into manage user account, look them up with the barcode, the username, what have you, and then you can click unlock account. Next to it is an option for staff takeover. So if you remember in the pack, some libraries used an override code to log in on behalf of the patron. This is the BiblioCore equivalent to that feature. So if I take over the account, I'm essentially logged in as this patron. So when you click into the staff takeover, it will pull up their information so you can verify that it's the correct user. It prompts you to select the checkbox saying you have the user's permission, and it will log a transaction, and then you can take over the account. Some libraries will not want to use this feature. That's perfectly fine. Others may find situations where they do want to use it, where it may be useful. So my message to you is please discuss workflows internally and follow whatever practice your library decides to establish. Okay, I'm going to pop down past a few of these options. Oh, chat. Is the 1 hour lock hard coded, or can the lockout time frame be decreased to say 15 minutes? That 1 hour lock is hard coded into the site. Good question. I'm going to jump down to the resync options. Um, so I'm going to click into here to resync. So we had that question, which is like the perfect setup about like, what if the user, d wants to import their list later? What if the user maybe they accidentally X'd that closed that prompt so they don't see it, and then they find they need it. So this is where staff can re-trigger that list import. So let me go back. So again, we're under, our admin, manage user account, and then we click on resync account. And you will see an option for reset list import. And if I click this button, which I'm going to do, it's going to kind of re-trigger that little import list button. And now, after we're kind of done with the webinar content, I can go back into um, I can log back in as my patron, and we'll see if it duplicates titles. Okay. Um, the final set of tools gets into some more complicated patron record actions. We're going to go through them here. I've got some notes on the slide. We also have a how-to page up on our website with these details. As we are going through these, one thing I want you to keep in mind that may be helpful when thinking about these functions is that we are working with the patron's BiblioCore record, which is a separate entity from their Polaris record in Leap. So like, when we're talking about the BiblioCore record, again, what data is attached to that BiblioCore record? So that's the content the user created in BiblioCore, things like their lists, their reviews, their shelves. And then when we're talking about the Polaris record, that's all of their registration information. So things like their checkouts, their hold, their fees. So the actions we're looking at will apply to their BiblioCore record. Okay. So the first action is under this resync section, and it's resyncing the patron's account. So when could this be used? When BiblioCore is pulling in the patron's ILS data, it's using the patron's control number or their Polaris patron ID rather than their barcode. So this way, if a patron is given a new barcode in Polaris, they'll be able to log in and access their existing BiblioCore account automatically with their new barcode number. Sometimes Circ staff may need to like merge two patron records together. So maybe the patron has the same barcode now, but they have a different Polaris control number. So when this happens, we can use the resync tool to connect their existing BiblioCore record to their new Polaris ID. So this way, if the patron has lists or posted reviews, that content will be associated with their new Polaris ID number. We go back to my main Manage User menu. Another record action here is replace barcode. So, scenario for this tool, let's say a patron has a BiblioCore record, but their Polaris patron record was deleted, right? So even though, again, two separate records, two separate entities, even though their Polaris patron record was deleted, their BiblioCore record still exists. And let's say this patron came back to the library a year later and they got a new library card. So now they have a brand new Polaris record with a new control number and a new barcode. This replace barcode feature allows you to link an existing BiblioCore account to a new Polaris account or patron ID number and barcode. So we're going through this. I don't expect anyone to like memorize when these situations are used off the top of your head. I'm going to show you where all this information can be found on our website. Okay, So the last thing, the very last thing we have here is an unregister user account button. So this deletes the user's BiblioCore account, which includes any shelves, lists, reviews, or other content they've created through Core. It does not delete the Polaris patron record. So again, the BiblioCore record and patron Polaris record, they're two different entities. This action is just deleting their BiblioCore record. And once unregistered, the patron can absolutely re-register on BiblioCore. They just, again, if they created any account with their old record, they won't have access to that. Okay, so we're going to go back into my slides. Let me get to, so here I've got, some quick hit notes on those staff tools. And now let me show you where you can find some information. So all of those staff tools we just looked at are available on a how-to page on our website called Managing BiblioCore User Accounts. So there is the direct link to the page. It is bundled. We have a handful of how-to pages all around BiblioCore on our website. So you can find those under how-to and then software BiblioCore. There's a direct link to that full list. We have also just want to highlight the BiblioCore help file. So that's what is available to patrons on the BiblioCore site. You see a little link to help right next to the username. You can click that, and it gives you just some basic steps for things like how to register, how to search, how to place a hold. Um, Library staff now have access to the BiblioCommons Partner Portal, and that is kind of like the back end documentation. So you do need to sign up to access, but once you do, are able to search the documentation, the staff-facing documentation for BiblioCore. And then again, we've got our BiblioCore Marketing Toolkit. We've been collecting a FAQ from the project on there, and we'll be transferring that to a more permanent location at some point. And then the final thing I just want to point out, we have a lot of new tools that we are using, not only BiblioCore, but we've also are starting with Alex Starter. We've got Orange Boy. So we have a list of reported issues on our website. That had posted reported issues for Polaris, and we have expanded that to include reported issues for our other tools. So if you are on BiblioCore and you're like, oh, something's a little weird, you check that page out to see if it's been reported before, and if it's like being worked on, if there's a solution. And always like do feel free to uh, open a help desk ticket. Okay, so 10:59. If you need to go, do feel free. I have want to test out that list import. So anyone who wants to stick around and see that, please feel free to do. For anyone who is leaving, thank you so much for joining us today. I know I have been learning so much about BiblioCore over the past weeks. I'm sure we'll continue to learn more. So we will continue to provide BiblioCore training as we move on. So let me find my patron information here again, and let's log in. Let's test this out. One and my password. Okay, so I've got, oh, my for later shelf is populated. Let's go to my for later shelf. Because I re-triggered that import option, I see it here. Okay, so I've got 7 items on my for later shelf. Let's just see if this doubles up. And we refresh the page to make sure. It did not double up. So uh, anything new will be added. Presumably anything new will be added. Anything that's already there, we won't see a duplicate of. Let's see. I know I've got some other questions that I'm going to follow up on. Oh, and the final thing. Good, I'm glad. Will the patron fees list show from which library they are being charged? I don't think so. Let me go back into that fees area. You know, it does not show the details of that transaction. When a patron sees the recent staff list in our BiblioCore catalog, will they see the staff list from our library first, even if other libraries update their staff lists? Um, Unfortunately, no. So the staff, while that's the staff lists, will focus on CCS libraries. It will not it does not weigh or like give preference to your own library. Now, one thing I do want to mention, BiblioCommons is currently developing a new homepage for Core that's going to replace this Explore area. And from what we've heard, staff will be able to really like pick, they will be able to customize this content. So they'll be able to pick and choose specifically what displays here. So you will, at some point, have a lot more control over what displays. Okay, I think the last thing we said we wanted to test out was if I am able to hide my own review for a spoiler. So I'm going to click into. I'm going to delete this, so we'll make sure. Nope, it does not look like I can hide my own comment for a spoiler. I'm going to do a little digging on that just to see if anything is documented. Okay. Okay. So let's finish up here. Um, I am once I end this recording, when it's ready, I will send that out through L2. It's also going to include a link to a training evaluation, and will include a copy of the slides. So that's what you will get from me today. Um, and then I am going to find some answers to these pending questions, and then I will also send that out through L2. So you'll get a follow-up email from me today, and then you'll likely get a follow-up email from me through L2 again next week. So I just want to say thank you all for joining me today. Thank you for your excellent questions. If you have anything else comes up, don't hesitate to reach out to CCS at CCS help at ccslib.org. Um, and you will, oh, what if I flag myself? Ah, talking about the spoilers. That's a good question. Um, let me let me check in on that. I don't want to flag my test user just in case there is like going back to that question before about like, repeat offenders. So we'll find some answers. When a hold gets unclaimed, can the patron reactivate the hold in their account too, or just canceled ones? Um, I am actually blanking how this works in the pack right now too, Sylvia. So I'm gonna work this test in and I will let you know. Okay. Okay, so we are going to end this recording.